If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Hey everyone, Derpy here, and welcome to Battle Pirates Beginner's Guide Episode 5. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can move in from just using the few fleets that you've gotten from the Battle Pirates Forsaken Mission Prize Pool 1 chests, how you can go from having these ones into having a top tier raid fleet. The things that we've already covered a little bit on this channel is you want to get all these different chests and use them, and if you're starting this, pretty early on, a few things may have also been in the campaigns menu. I am not a fan of these campaigns in general, and Kixeye is slowly moving away from them, but there are a few things that are broken about these. For example, the introduction to Tier 9 Assault is actually for a Tier 8 hull, which is confusing. The introduction to Siege requires a fleet that you can't get anymore, and a few other problems like that. I wish they would just delete them. But in summary, we talked about how to go through and get prizes from Prize Pool 1 of the FM, or through that campaigns menu, and use those, especially the Praetorian fleet, to hit the 135 targets. Once you hit enough of those, you can go ahead and pick up the Everest and the Cloudbreaker Everest and some other cool tech in the Forsaken Mission, and various different garrison things to do the Forsaken Mission more easily. At that point, you now have to find a way to get the next new top hull. And this does require you to come into this with one goal. There are 2 months, there are 2 raids in a cycle. Raid 1, Raid 2. On Raid 2, you always get the prize that's going to be used in the next 2 months. So for example, we had the Mutineer. While using the Mutineer, and that's a skirmish hull, the first raid, we got something random, defender tech, offensive tech, things that don't really matter too much. Then we went and got the Photon ECM as an assault hull. Then we used that Photon ECM, and its second raid, we went and got the Reclaimer. Of course, not everyone had all those hulls, and if you're coming in late, it's going to be difficult to get those. What you want to do is come into the second raid of the cycle with a fully built fleet and 2 weeks of Forsaken Mission tokens. By Forsaken Mission tokens, I'm talking about a few things in here. The Legendary Forsaken Mission chest, as well as the Elite Forsaken Mission chest. There's also a few other tokens in Prize Pool 1 here, which are great to get. When I say 2 weeks, it means you store one of these weeks in token form, you open it, it's in your inventory. The second week, you store in chest form, just off onto the left of your base, where you can open those at some point later. It's always really important, by the way, when you open this Legendary Forsaken Mission chest, you have no 2-day tokens in your inventory and a max of 1 1-day token because things will overfill. Anyway, now that we've talked about that a little bit, you want to go into the second raid of the cycle with a fully built fleet and 2 weeks of FM tokens. You know how to save the FM tokens, but okay, how do you get the fleet done and ready and built if you aren't able to get it in its previous raid? This requires you to, A, just go out and buy the fleet through the offers that are given. I'm not going to do that. I've got no idea when they actually offer these things, but it will be possible if you do want to do it. Right now, I could buy a Reclaimer flagship for $25, a regular Reclaimer for $15, and another one for another $15. There's a buy limit of 2 here. You can buy things, and those are great if you're that kind of person who wants to do it. I'm not. Instead, I offer you 2 options. Option 1 is to use the previous version, so the Reclaimer Siege. Let's use the most recent Siege fleet up to the Reclaimer, and we're going to use that in a time-limited campaign that's only available once a week on a rotating basis. We don't know exactly when it is, but it usually happens between the first raid and the second raid, and also between the raid where we earn it and its hull's first raid. You're going to want to make sure that you use the Gladius in this case to get the Reclaimer. It will be tough. You might not be able to get all the prizes. Those campaigns generally have a few tokens, a few upgrade kits, a weapon. In Prize Pool 1, Prize Pool 2 will actually have the fleet, and this one I'm showing you is for the Ronin, not the Reclaimer. And Prize Pool 3 will have some other cool specials, and Prize Pool 4 will have more advanced and more limited specials. Now, that is a lot. If you have questions, drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those. That's option 1. Use the older fleet, which you'll get through the Forsaken Mission chests, in the campaigns when they come up. And there's no consistent naming scheme, you just sort of have to try and recognize that. So I could have used the Gladius in the Reclaimer TLC, which was actually called Siegebreaker, that was offered a week or two ago, to just get up through Price Pool 2 and earn the whole, as well as the unlimited weapon in Price Pool 1. In that case, you just want to start building blanks, but we'll come back to that. Or the option, which I actually did on this account, is I used my Everest fleet, which again I built up through the Forsaken mission. Looks a little bit like this. I use that one, and it does take a lot of damage, to go out and hit targets in Pillage. It's important to know which Pillage you're doing. If you're doing the one that has a flagship for that fleet offered in it, that's the one you want. I went out and I hit a few dozen of the level 138 garrison targets, and I got stuff from my Reclaimer. I earned the Reclaimer Blueprint, as well as the Flagship Reclaimer Blueprint, the Unlimited Weapon, and the Unlimited Special. This means I can start to build a Reclaimer, and I'm just building 3 blanks. I'm not going to be able to, actually I'm going to build 4 blanks and the Flagship blank. There's a raid 1 week from today. I'm not interested in participating in the first raid in the cycle. I'm only interested in coming into the second raid in the cycle with a fully built fleet and 2 weeks of Forsaken Mission tokens. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to spend time building the ships, try and get them ranked up 2 through VXP weekend right after the first raid, which I don't care about, and go into the second raid. Of course, you also need tech and a build to go with it, which is why you need to pick up the weapons that are associated with this. I told you I got the tier 10 recycled uranium launcher weapon. That's a great one to go on here, and more advanced builds will come out here, but if you're just trying to follow along in sort of real time as I'm making this, that's great. Or you can always ask someone else for a build. Also, on this exact fleet, anti-missiles do work quite well. I'm going to use one of those. In terms of armors, you can get the top tier armor and the best ones, which is the tier 10 siege armors in the Forsaken mission. Unfortunately, I don't have those. I don't have the time to play on this, so I'll just use the tier 9 ones. They're older. I could use the tier 9.5 ones. Whatever I actually have, these things won't do great, but they will help. You can also scrap the older fleets, in this case the Punisher Mark II, if you do want those. And then for all these different specials, I actually am going to pick up a few engines for Siege in the Forsaken mission, which looks like the V42 rock blocks, or you can pick a sync drive, which should be much cheaper, or just go with Speed System 5 as an unlimited special. These next slots, I'm just going to use things that again are a bit helpful, and I am going very, very quickly. The limited one that you would want for tier 10 I have on my main fleet is the best special out here. But I don't have the capabilities to use that. I didn't get enough points in Pillage, so instead I had to settle with a few older ones. A lot of these older specials I've gotten through the Forsaken mission, redeeming every possible prize there, or just through scrapping old ships. And that's probably what I have to do to actually get these armors and the heavy weapon slot for the Reclaimer. I'm just loading out the fleet with a few things here that are going to be useful. I've looked at this ahead of time, so I'm not explaining everything in detail, and I don't want this video to get too long. But there's just a few things I'm equipping that make sense to me. And these last few slots, let's see what we want to use here. You would usually want to use a siege battery on your ship, or you would want to use a radioactive battery. I don't have that, I'm just using these. Again, just putting on specials that I've looked at a little bit before, and the build time is going to be quite high. But with all the different Forsaken Mission tokens, you should have enough to get 4 of these ships done, plus the flagship, which will look exactly the same in this case, before the second raid in the cycle. Not going to be easy, and it's going to be a little bit complicated. You're not going to get the build right on the first try, but that's what your alliance is for, that's what asking for help is for. Your goal is to build 5 of these things, come into the second raid in the cycle with all of those built. Of course, you also need to do other things like upgrade your outpost so you can upgrade your dock, and actually use all 5 holes in the fleet. At this point, I can't, and I am working on that and getting those ships up there. So that's a little bit of how to meet your goal. You need to have 5 ships or full fleet done for the second raid in the cycle. The first raid in the Reclaimer cycle is next week. I don't care about that. I'm just going to use that opportunity to keep building my ships, keep spending more shipyard time doing that, and never letting my shipyard be idle for a moment's notice. And you can actually get the blueprint through 2 different ways. The first one I talked about was a TLC, which is hard to predict and you don't know when it's offered. The other option is the Pillage between the first and second raid in the cycle. Gives you a little bit less time to work with, but it is more predictable, easier to do, and of course you can also get preps for the Pillage targets. Those are two methods to go ahead and just get the tech that you need and then start building it. As always, let me know if you do have any questions. I'd like to thank everyone who supports the channel for helping out. And as always, this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.